Good evening. We're with the International Dyslexia Association Oregon branch, and we're going to be joined here shortly by Dr. Tracy Johnson-Rockmore, and she is the president of Vessels of Hope. She is also an author, so really excited to share her journey with you and learn more about her book. I knew we could do it.
Funny.
I knew it. It's the dyslexics with persistence, right? We find a way.
We find a way. We work it out. We're always outside the box.
We're always outside the box. We just find a way. We just keep going at
it. Exactly. Hi, Jared. How are you?
It's so good to see you. How are you doing?
You too. I'm doing well.
I'm really excited that you're joining tonight. I'm excited to hear more about your journey and where it started with dyslexia.
Sure. So my journey with dyslexia started as a child. I was actually of course, in elementary school, middle school, but as a child, I was happy. I loved to go to school, the little book backpack and all that good stuff. But in the sixth grade is when I really hit a wall. My teacher at the time told my mother that I was not developing in math and reading and all those type things. And basically they wanted to test me, which we went through those batteries of tests, but really they did not identify me as having or being dyslexic. They just told my mom I was slow in reading, writing, math, and I was just not keeping up with my peers, all those type things. And that's when, like I say, I hit that brick wall and I was placed in more the slower class with the students that were struggling. But they weren't just struggling with dyslexia. I mean, there was kids in there with the emotional issues and behavioral issues and all those type things. And I just thought, if I'm good enough and I can prove that I'm smart enough, I'll work my way out of here. and I'll show them I don't need to be here. But that never happened. So all throughout elementary school, middle school, high school, I still had that struggle. And I graduated from high school, but still not able to read at a level that I was supposed to read coming out as, quote unquote, an adult, being able to learn and actually get a job and go to college and all those type things. So
let's pause here for a second, and I want to go back to sixth grade for a minute. What was it like for you to be in that room, to be in that space where you kind of seemed like you just knew, like, this isn't the exact right environment? What was that process like for you, and how did you deal with that?
That's when my self-esteem and my emotional issues began, because they started to really spiral. Because I thought I was incompetent enough. I thought I was dumb. I was told and actually when I was in high school, the whole class told we were just not able to go to college at all because we didn't have the mental capacity. And I began to internalize those things as a child. Thought I was dumb, I was slow, I was stupid. Maybe they were right. I can't do this, I can't do that. And like I say, that's when the emotional spiral started. I began to, as I grew a little bit older, thoughts of suicide, depression, all those type things. Because I just felt like I was never good enough. I wasn't smart enough. I wasn't intelligent enough. I wasn't pretty enough. All those enough words began to be part of my dialogue, but internally. Because at home, my mom always my mom was a single mom, and I was the youngest of three kids at the time. I have an older brother and things like that I didn't meet later on, but I was the youngest. So my older brother and sister, they didn't have those struggles. So I was wondering, like, why am I the only broken one? I'm the last one. What happened to me, So all those type things. But again, that emotional piece that goes along with those that struggle with learning disabilities like myself really started to hit when I was in that in that environment, because other kids, when, you know, recess and all this, they started to tease me, of course. And, you know, they started to, oh, you're over there, you're dumb, you're, you know, all those types of things that kids, cruel kids can do, of course. So that emotional piece. So I came home and really kind of secluded myself. Did not really want to go out too much with other friends and things like that, because I just had all that emotional stuff going on. Although I was reaffirmed at home, like, you know, you're smart, you're bright, you're this, but internally, I just couldn't make the connection.
So was it kind of like you go to school, you get kind of beaten down at school, built back up at home, and then just repeat the process? Was that?
But then I began to come home and beat myself up. So that's, you know, people can tell you all day that you're awesome, that you're great, that you're this, that you're that, but until you internalize it, it doesn't click with us.
I want to continue on your journey, but where did that, because it is Dr. Tracy Johnson-Rockmore.
Right. Right.
Where did that internalization ever happen for you? And,
it did.
And when did that occur?
That did not occur until I was out of high school. And it took about a couple years after that when I started like working in dead-end jobs, and I always knew inside, like, I'm smart. They just can't see it. So I was always fighting. And even when I got out of high school, I tried to attempt to go to our community college here. And took the entry-level test and I failed. Who can't get in community college, right? So I couldn't at the time. So, and I encountered a counselor there. She's like, how'd you get this far? You know, who told you can be here? All these type things. And that's when the internalization began again, that beating myself up. Well, oh, they were right. I can't do this. I can't do that. But it wasn't until I saw a TV show that was talking about dyslexia. And I'm like, wait, I think that's me. You know, they started talking about this particular characters, you know, their struggles with dyslexia. I'm like, oh, that sounds like me. That's when my own search began. And I actually was able to find our local branch here in PA of the International Dyslexia Association. And that's when I actually was screened and identified. And that's when I found out I am smart. I told you, you just couldn't figure it out. So that's when that journey for me began. And I began to embrace the way I learned when I understood how I learned, that process of how I learned. And I actually was able to get a tutor with an Orton-Gillingham approach. I actually did the Wilson program prior to going back to college. And that's when I embraced learning. And that's when the journey began to become Dr. Tracy Johnson-Rockmore, because I needed to know how my brain worked. And when I was younger, I never knew, no one ever told me how my brain worked.
I want to stay with this for a second, and then I want to get to the college experience. Was it always like you kind of knew there was another level to what you could do and what you could produce? Did you always kind of feel that way?
I did.
And then for a student, before being identified, or maybe they've been identified, but they're in that moment, what advice would you have for that student who's like, has that feeling that I could be doing better, that I could be doing more, but they're not seeing it and I'm not being put in position for success? What advice do you have for that student?
Keep trying, because there's a key that's going to unlock the way you learn. Sometimes it's really us trying to find the right key. And it's not always the educators finding the right key. We have to tell people sometimes how we learn, and show them different ways. Okay, even if you can't put it in educational terms, you can say, okay, visually, I learn better when I look at pictures, or when I hear things and look at pictures, or when I hear words and look at the words, or something like that. You can probably explain to them how your brain works. So it's trying to find that right key to unlock your gifts, your talents, your abilities, and unlock that giftedness that you know that you have inside. Because a lot of times we know. The frustration is how to generate that, or how to relay that to other people.
I think this is a really, really important point. And for people that are listening, whether it's students or educators, parents, whether if you're dealing with a student, letting the student just talk it through and
Yep,
not have the terminology, to your point, not have the educational
exactly.
terminology, but just talk it through. And it may sound messy, but
Hmm.
figure out that what's being said, whether it's through visualization or auditory, and then
Hmm.
giving that student a chance to show what they know in their best form. I think
Exactly.
you just hit a really important
Exactly.
point.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're getting back on your journey. You have left high school, but you do not have the reading level to,
Not at all.
and that's when you go to you see this TV show and you get and then you reach out to uh, the IDA branch, your local
Yeah.
IDA branch,
Hmm.
get tested. Oh, I am dyslexic,
Hmm.
and then you're getting trained. What's it like to go back with this training? Where do you go now?
It was hard because now, I had to function. I'm not in school anymore. I'm not covered by those walls where I needed a new IEP or anything like. So I had to find those resources on my own. We did at the time have a list of tutors, which I still connect with my tutor today that taught me Wilson. She's amazing. She's in her 90s now, but she's amazing. And she just stuck with me. I don't know why. She just even when the times, because it's a lot harder sometimes as an adult because the process is harder and is longer. Because number one, we did not get the skills that we needed when we were at the age where we can absorb it better. So it's going to take us longer to get that information. But she just stuck with me. Even times when I wanted to give up, she was like, "Oh no, you're not. You're not giving up." And I kept with it. But when I grasped the multi-sensory approach, I I wanted more work because I began to love and embrace, like, oh my gosh, I am actually reading a full book. I'm spelling a word without stumbling. So that unlocked a whole new world to me that now I have number one access. I had access as well to books on digital books. So now I'm listening, I'm learning as well as when I went back to school originally. Eventually, I began to listen and read along with the text. So my vocabulary that began to pick up. Then I began to spell a lot better. My knowledge of information just grew tremendously. Again, when we actually get the right key and unlock the way we learn, most dyslexics, we love knowledge. We have a passion for knowledge, but it's always harder for us to access it. And it's harder for us not only physically to access it, but even our brain gets tired. We all know that. When we physically read the normal way, we get physically tired. But when we actually get the information and unlock the way we learn, there's nothing we can do. There's nothing we cannot do.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think the passion for knowledge is there, like
It
within
is.
each and of one of us. It's how do we get that? How do we get that tool? Like, what's the
Mhm.
key to unlocking it? And then, did you see, like, in your own journey, like, once you had the skill set, was it just pattern recognition at that point of like, oh, this is how I'm going to get through my master's, this is how I'm going to get through my doctorate, like I've got it
No,
figured out.
each journey for me was like, all right, this is it. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. And my tutor was like, nah, I don't know. But
So what kept okay, so on that, what kept pushing you?
I have a thirst for knowledge. I really do.
Okay.
I'm actually in a course now. I'm trying to get my certification on Wilson. It's hard as I don't know what, but I'm going to stick with it until I get it. I just have a passion to learn, and I want to make sure no one else goes through that. Because as long as we find the right key to the right lock that we have, you can access the information you desire. Because, like I say, most of us have a thirst for knowledge. We just need to know how to get it.
I want to talk to you. I want to learn more about Vessels of Hope, and I want to talk to you about your book. Before we get to that step, you brought up a good point as you were talking through your journey of the mental health, right? Of what it can do to us when we're in that environment and not being able to show what we can do and feeling like
Mhm.
we want to give up. What can you offer from your experience to students who might be feeling that way in the current moment?
Knowing what makes you feel good about yourself. Really finding, and sometimes it takes a little while to find that, but find it, because that's going to be your peace. For me, it was that really kept me going was my connection to my church, honestly, and connection to that positive place where I can go to get loved on. So really know that place for you. Know that place where you can go to really get loved on, because we feel like a lot of times we get beat up in those areas where we're struggling. So know that place where you go. I know for you, Jared, it's running. So my buddy Jared's going to go take a run. But for you, anybody, try to find that place. Any kid, adult, teenager, try to find that place where you feel empowered, where you feel loved, because if periodically you're going to have to go there to get rebuilt, to get refilled, so you can go back into the place where it's hard.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And I think you brought up a good component, right? There's the physical element, right? Getting out,
Yeah.
moving, that's definitely helpful. We talk about our thirst for knowledge and being in a
Mm-hmm.
place, but there's also the faith component, the spirituality
Mm-hmm.
component to having that is building a well-rounded human. And so having something bigger than yourself out there, I think that is an important thing to hang on. So I'm really glad you brought that up. All right. So talk to me about Vessels of Hope. You're the president. Are you president and CEO? Is that right?
Yes, I founded Vessels of Hope.
All right. So, okay, president.
Yeah.
What, talk to us about this.
Vessels of Hope was actually founded, developed based off of everything that I, of course, was going through myself, but also a lot of people began to come to me with their own stories. And I'm like, I need something tangible, something to give them. And Vessels of Hope, the actual name comes from, because when I was in that place, I felt like a broken vessel. I felt like a broken vessel that needed to be mended. And when I was able to then find the right key to unlock what was going on with myself, that's when this vessel began to mend. So that's where Vessels of Hope came in. I felt like hope was then pouring back into me when I understood the way I learned. So that's where actually it comes from. And our desire right now, since COVID, it's been me, but sharing that information with people who just may not know, are underprivileged areas, and the areas where the information is not always given. Again, even with my mom, not giving parents the right information. You see something on your child being tested, and it's just saying they have a deficiency in this, a deficiency in that, and reading, writing. It's dyslexia. The word may not be there, but that's what it is. So just making sure the parents and the children as well as the adults get the right information. This is what you may be struggling with. And it's not a sentence. This is just a part of you. It doesn't identify who you are as a person.
That's amazing. I love that you're engaging the marginalized communities as well with this project, because to your point, if they're not having to access it, they don't have that. So that's what you're about. And you wrote a book too.
Yes.
And the title of that book, Journey of Hope, is that?
Journey of Hope, an everyday guide for adults living with dyslexia. And why I wanted to focus on adults with this particular project is because, again, once we're out of the school systems, you're still dyslexic. It doesn't go away. So what do I do now? How am I going to live this life without having an IEP, without having, advocate and all these types of things? How am I going to navigate this crazy non-dyslexic world living as an adult with dyslexia? And sometimes the book also speaks to those who weren't identified, but they know that this is their struggle.
Sure, and that's part of your journey too, right? Like, you got identified, but kind of late in the process. So
yeah,
what's that like? Do you have a copy of the book with you by chance?
I do.
Oh, I'd love to see.
Yeah,
oh, there you go.
This is a copy of the book, and you can find it on Amazon. And also, if you email me, there's a link to the landing page for the book.
Okay, great. So we'll make sure people are aware of that, how to get it, Amazon, or email out Doctor here, Dr. Tracy.
Yeah, you can actually go to our website. It's actually Vessels of Hope,
Okay,
uh, vesselsofhope.org. You can go to our website, and if you email me from there, I'll make sure you get the link to the page.
perfect. That's awesome.
Mhm.
It's cool because it seems like your book and your foundation or the Vessels of Hope, they go hand in hand. Is that
Yeah, they do. They do.
what's your? I want to leave you with the last word. What's your message for people? I mean, you dropped a ton of golden nuggets tonight, so I want to thank you for that. Like, there's so much knowledge that you bring to the table. But what would be your concluding thought?
Make sure you get connected to a community that you can release those struggles. Oftentimes, what I hear is that a lot of people feel like they're alone in this. They feel like they're alone in this journey. And I believe that's where a lot of the emotional baggage comes from, because you feel like you're by yourself and you feel like you're isolated. There's still a lot of stigma in dealing with it. But we all know, if we look up the famous authors and actors and Einstein, and we know all the people that were dyslexic, but a lot of times we can't identify them because they're not tangible. So connect with the community. There's a lot of now on Facebook and on Instagram, Jared's here. Connect with a community that you can release that and really connect with someone that knows those struggles, because we need each other in this journey, because a lot of times we feel like we're isolated. We don't want to tell anybody that we're struggling in spelling, we're struggling in reading and writing. And I always say it's not just an academic thing. It affects everything that we do in life. And as we really understand that, you get that community, or you get that connection with someone else, you know that this is not an isolated thing. You are not broken. I don't ever want anyone to feel like they're broken. You're not broken. You don't need to be fixed. This is just the way God created our minds. It's okay, because we need that type of mind in the world. Everyone doesn't need to think the same way and do everything the same way. A lot of times we bring a lot of creativity to a job, to a relationship, to life. We bring a lot of creativity that's actually needed in the world. So never think that you're broken. Connect with someone in this community that you can talk with, that you can maybe just send a chat to. I'm feeling bad today. I did this happened. I spelled incorrectly. Someone, teased me because I did this. Connect with someone, because again, you're not by yourself. And we encourage and support one another.
That is deep and so needed, and I hope people really hear that, because it is so important to connect and not feel alone in this process, because it can very much feel like you're alone, but that's not the truth. And Tracy, I just thank you for all your work that you're doing, the community that you're building, and sharing your journey, struggles, and successes with us all. Truly grateful. Been fortunate to be on a panel with you, and I feel like I learn from you every single time you talk, so I'm very appreciative.
Oh, thanks, Jared.
You have a great night, and I'd love to have you back on as you're continuing this work and different projects come up that you'd care to share about.
I would love that. I'm actually I'm trying to work on the second part of the book, but we'll see. We'll see if I can get more help. But I'm trying to work on the second part of the book. Some things that I wasn't able to add in this version that I definitely want to add to the second version. But basically just assessing the needs that we have in our dyslexic community, because a lot of times especially with a lot of men, they don't always want to say stuff because of the stigma that goes along with that. You have to be strong, you have to be this. But seeing another dyslexic, successful man a lot of times will encourage our younger children that are dealing with this, that look, he did it. I have some gifts and talents, but I don't know what theirs. A lot of times we need mentorships in our communities. And that's sometimes what we're struggling with. We don't always see that person that's really doing it and how they got there. And you know, like you said, we have to share our struggles as well, because they can see, oh wow, well they did this, I can do it too, although I'm struggling. So, but we can talk for hours, Sharon.
I know we can, and I could keep going for sure. And your second part of your book, I think, is really needed. I think this is an important element of it. You're hitting on a lot of notes that make a ton of sense to me. So anything I can do to support you in your next, next endeavor, but definitely want you on here to share it when you get to that point.
I sure will. Thank you.
You have a great night. Thank you so much.
You too. Take care. Bye bye.